Good afternoon. As part of the iMoot team, I'd like to welcome Sarah Ashley. If you don't know her, you should. She is going to show us 5 creative uses for the database activity today. So take it away, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you decided to join us today. I am an instructional designer with Rutgers University in New Jersey, USA, specifically with the Biomedical and Health Sciences campus. So we are the site of Rutgers that uses Moodle, and we have students and staff and faculty using the database activity in so many different ways. And I wanted to share just 5 of those uses with you today. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. And for me, I think that the database activity is Moodle's Swiss Army knife. It is so versatile. There's so much you can do with it in so many different ways, so many different contexts. It is a multi-purpose tool. You can use it for academic activities, for non-academic activities. You can use it in a group activity where students are working together in teams doing something, or you can have them as individuals, or you can just have it not even grouped at all, but just the general class contributing to the database. It is portable, which means that you can transfer the content to a different Moodle site for someone else to use the activity the way you've set it up. You can share it across the whole Moodle site that you are on so that other faculty, other instructors can use your setup. It is adaptable, so even after you've shared it, people can still modify the fields and the way it looks to suit the way that they want to use it. So it is really, really a powerful tool, and I think underutilized in Moodle. So let's take a look at some of the ways that we can use it. The first example is a private submission Dropbox. We have our clinical rotation students submitting journals for each rotation that they do. So if they're going to do pediatric work every day that they go in, they have to write a journal about maybe the patient that they saw and things like that. So they have a way to do their write-up and their history, and they're learning to do that. So they submit these into to their advisors. And at first they were having assignment activities. They had like 10 or more links to each assignment, and that was just so horrible to manage and find out who has done what and if everybody has submitted everything. So eventually we came together and decided to use the database activity to set this up instead, and that works so well. The students are one group, one student per group, so everybody is in their private group all by themselves with their advisor. They submit their journal to the database activity, and the advisor is able to, yes, it ties everything up, Frankie, just one link from 10 plus, you just get one beautiful link and everybody's in there. The student uploads their journal, the advisor can go and read the information and then use the comment feature to give feedback. So this is what it looks like. When they click on the database link, you can see all of your submissions that you've already done, what type of rotation it is, and the document type and things like that. And then they click the add entry button, and then they upload their entry. So if you come here, this is what it looks like after they have entered the information. Okay, so this is like the detail, and then the advisor's feedback section is where the advisor can post the document after they've put in comments in Word, tracking and things like that, and add comments. For the student adding the entry, it's just a simple form. You have drop-down menus, you have browse buttons to browse to your computer and pick a file. You have entry boxes, very familiar. There's nothing complicated about it. So it's very easy for the students to use and enter their information. The second way that we are using it is as a post-first discussion board. Now, what is post-first discussion board? I like to call it the academic pin the tail on the donkey. It's like students have to answer the question before they can see what everybody else has posted. So basically kind of a blind post, right? So before you can see where the donkey's tail has landed, you have to try to pin it, right? So the student has to post a certain number of entries before they can view all others. The database activity allows us to be able to do this. So this is what it looks like before they've entered something. So if they haven't completed the activity, it tells them that they have to add one or more entries in order to complete the activity, and also before they can view any other participants' entries. So if it's a question, a discussion question that may generate similar answers and responses from students, you may want them to kind of have some original thought before they post, so that they are not copying each other or being influenced by each other's responses. And that's why they do that. So after the student posts, then they can see that there's already been like 2 other entries, and then they can read what those entries are and see any comments that have been posted. Okay, in terms of grading, you can see here that there's a sum of ratings. The grade is only visible to the student who posted, the author of the post. Only they can see their grade. Okay, so this is one way that we're doing this. And the secret for the success of this setup is using the entries required before viewing setting, this one here. Okay, entries required before viewing. So they set that to 1, and then you know that you have to post 1 entry before you can see everything else. And that's what the teacher wanted, and it worked out beautifully for them. The third way that we are using this is as a course resource repository. What does that mean? It's a kind of a very long term for something very simple. What the medical school is doing is most of their classes are taught by so many different doctors or faculty, and sometimes even guest speakers. The course can't have 15 different teachers in it. It kind of gets a little complicated and overwhelming to manage and to support them. So what they have is they have one course manager who is the teacher. He has the teacher role in the course. And so the guest teachers or instructors are non-editing teachers, and they submit their documents and course resources, articles, papers, and all that to the database for the course manager to read through, review them, and then approve. If they approve it, then it becomes visible to the students. So kind of like how even with the conference with the iMoot presentation database, when your entry gets approved, then everybody else gets to see your presentation listed in the database. So this is the idea. And so this is working very well for them. They manage what the students see, and they can also easily approve or unapprove the lecture material. So this is kind of what it looks like. It's set up for week by week lectures, whoever the instructor is, and then the document. Okay, and if any other website links are provided, they can see that. So the key with this one, the secrets to the success for this is the little check mark. I've circled that in red. Once you click that little check mark, it approves the entry and then publishes it and makes it visible to the student. If it doesn't have, if it hasn't been approved, it's not visible to the students. Okay. So the student can click on the entry and then look at the detailed information in it. You can also approve an entry from this screen as well. The little check mark is there. So if you click it, then it gets published and made visible. So in the settings, the key for this one is using the approval section. So we have approval required. You set that to yes. Allow editing of approved entries. People can still edit an approved entry. Maybe they made a typo or they want to add a new document or something like that. They can still edit that. So the key to the setup is in the approval. Another way that we're using it is in a non-academic setting. This is for community service hours. So the students again in the clinical rotation also have to do some community service, go and use their skills out there in the world. And they have to accrue a certain number of credit hours of community service. And so in order to see how many hours they've achieved or attained so far, the database automatically calculates the hours as they add them in. So let me give you a view of that. This is what it looks like. So for each student, because this is private, each student is in a group by themselves, okay? And this is all of Sandra's, entries, you can see the category of community service that she's done and the service type, open house, holiday gift, drive, soup kitchen, and then the number of hours that she's logged is there. And you can see at the bottom, it's totaling up the hours for her. So she can see she's already done 11.5 and she needs, 20? She knows how many more service hours she needs in order to meet her requirement. So this is very easy for the students also to enter their information, and it's easy for the advisors to check and see who is meeting their requirement and their quota. Okay. The key for this, and don't get scared, I'm not going to talk too much about code here, but the key for this is adding up the hours. It's in the JavaScript template, and then this is the code that does that. I have shared these presets with you in my course, so you can go and download them and just upload them into your Moodle site, into a database, and everything's already there for you. You have nothing to do. You do not have to do anything to mess around with the code unless you're not going to use community service and you want to change the name of the field. Then I would say, please, contact me. I'll help you massage it and adjust it to whatever you need it to be. Okay. In the list template, you see that on the list template, you see the total hours at the bottom, and this is what the key is. The single service is being added up and being displayed in the total hours field. So that's just for those who can understand it. That's great. You can take a look, but if not, don't worry about it too much. Use the preset and it's already programmed in for you. Now, one other interesting way we are using this is actually with my team, my office, we are the Moodle support desk. And so we use a database tool to log our tickets. So all support calls that come in get entered into the database, and we can track who's calling, what has been resolved, what is open, what has been escalated to staff member 1, 2, or 3, and things like that. And then at the end of the month, we can pull out a report and see how many calls were about gradebook, how many calls were about accessing the course or logging in and things like that. Very, very helpful. So this is what it looks like when you are entering your information. You have drop-down menus to pick from, setting the date of the call, the time of the call, who the customer was, whether they're a faculty or student or whatever. Check boxes to indicate the support issue. And these are all things you can adapt to do whatever you want it to do. It doesn't have to be Angel. You can change it to whatever system you have, right? If you don't use responders, you can put in whatever you want. But the fields and everything is already set up for you in the preset that I provided. So that's the adaptability portion of the database activity I was talking about. You can take what somebody has and change it into whatever you want it to be, and it still works perfectly. So this is an entry that has been saved. You can see the details, who it's been escalated to me, and so I have to go in and do some stuff with this, respond to the person's need, and then complete the ticket. So the issue was resolved by me, but the call was received by somebody else. So you can see all this, the call duration, all of this is stuff that we put in. Okay, so you can do whatever you decide you want to do. Everybody's still breathing. Everybody's still with me. Can I get a yes in the chat? Are you with me? Is this something that looks like you want to know? Awesome. Wonderful. So let me show you how to do this. The database activity is, of course, an activity that you will select from the Add an Activity menu. So you would click on Add an Activity or Resource, select Database from the list. And this is part of Moodle's out of the box. This is not a plugin you have to go and install from anywhere. Okay, this is part of Moodle. And you put in the name of the activity, what you want to call it, put in a description. That's what students would see, that, okay, this is how you do it. Click add entry, do blah, blah, blah. And then you have to make some decisions about the entries and the availability. When should it become visible? When should it go away? And things like that. So let's take a look in detail at these settings. So first, I'm going to talk about adding entries. When do you want them to be able to add entries? When do you want entries to stop? Okay, this is the availability section here. So it's available from a certain date and a certain time, which means people can begin to add entries, and it's available to a certain date and a certain time. And this is when entries stop. So they cannot add any more new information. Read only from, which means it becomes only viewable. So you can make it viewable from a certain date and time, and read only till a certain date and time. So then after that, it goes away, or, what have you. So you can make those decisions. Okay, so adding the entries and viewing the entries. Now, do you want to require a certain number of entries to be added before they can view it? So like the pin the tail on the donkey, the post first discussion, right? They had to add one post before they can view anything. So in requiring a post, that's in the entry section. I wonder if you can see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. It gets a little grainy, I think, but we'll try and make it visible. Okay, so approval required, yes or no. Do you want to allow comments? Entries required for completion. So do I need to make 5 posts in order for this activity to be considered complete, or what? You can put in a number. Entries required before viewing. This is where you can control how much work you want students to do before they get to see what else has been done by their classmates. Okay. Do you want to set a maximum number of entries that they can do? So maybe 5 are required, but I don't want them to do more than 10. Okay, so I can say a maximum will be 10. So you can control that as well. Okay. Then we have allowing comments. Allowing comments on entries will encourage discussion. So it's not just a tool for gathering information, it's also interactive, it is engaging, okay, and it's an active learning tool. So students can post comments and talk about the entry that somebody has made. The teacher can chip in, and it's really, really great. Okay, so you can consider encouraging discussion by allowing comments. Approval. Okay, so do you want to moderate the entries before students can see what's been posted? You know, want to make sure that this is kosher stuff that's going up there and people aren't posting something that is not politically correct or whatever. You can use the approval system. Okay, think about it in that way. Or like with the course resource repository with the medical students who had multiple guest lecturers. Okay, we were using the approval system to control what students see in the database. Okay, so approval is for controlling what's public and what is not. Okay, so can consider using that. And then we have ratings for giving feedback and grades. So not necessarily grades, but really feedback. So you can use stars and thumbs ups, or really useful, less useful, not very useful. You can use feedback that actually gives some quantitative or qualitative feedback to the student about their post, rather than just, a grade of 2 out of 5. What does 2 out of 5 really mean? Okay, so if you have a rubric though that tells you that 5 is a substantive post, and 3 is not very substantive, it's not got enough words or enough references or things like that, then you're making use of it in a more academically beneficial manner. Okay. Yeah, so those entries and availabilities, those are the key things that you need to consider on the settings page. After you've entered the name, these are the settings that will make your database be something really different. So after you've hit save, right, so you put in the name, put in the description, and you hit save and display, it brings you to a screen where you now have to decide what you want to do with it. What information do you want to collect? Okay, so on the fields tab, you can add so many different fields. You can see I've put a little screenshot of that there. You have checkboxes, you have files that they can browse and find, you have menus, number fields, text areas, URLs, pictures. Okay, so you can create an image gallery. Okay, so these are the different fields you can add. You decide what information you want to collect and add them in. Okay, Then after you've decided what information you've collected, you can now decide how should it all look? How do you want to put it together? So when the student is adding an entry, what should it look like? Okay, you have labels on the left. Maybe you want a table. You want a little image or a logo at the top of the page. This is in bold. You have some color background here, that kind of thing. You have to decide what it should look like for the students, and you can make it look any way that you want. As you can see, we had different ways that we designed our add entry forms. Okay, so by default, Moodle gives you a little table that looks like this, and you can then do more with it. You can increase, the padding and the space around the words. You can put in extra rows in between to space it out. You can use colors. You can insert images because you're in the text editor. So really, you have anything that you want to do at all. How should it look? So you're using the templates to do that. So you have a list view template, which means when you're looking at a list of all entries, what should it look like? Do you just want a name and then a link to the entry? Do you want a preview of the entry? What do you want to see? So you can design the list view, and then you can design a single view, design the add entry view, and there's even a template for when you're searching. So if you want people to be able to search through the database, what should they be searching? You can design that as well. So Moodle gives you so many tools for creating a very personalized and customized activity. I think it's really awesome. And one recommendation, when you're using the list view template, it is recommended that you turn off the editor. There's a button in the bottom left here. You can't see it, but it's a button that says disable the editor, because once you begin to work in the editor and you save it, sometimes some of the code is stripped away and then it doesn't look the way you expected it to. So a little quirky there, but it's still a powerful tool. So if you use the presets that I have provided, these are all set up for you already. So all you come in here, you can change the titles of the columns and do what you need it to do. Okay. So like I said, it is a very portable tool. So after the students have entered everything, it's the end of the semester, and you want to save this information. Okay, how do you save it? You can archive the entries by exporting everything to a CSV file. And if you have attached files and images that students put into their entries, those do not go with the export, unfortunately. So you only have text data that can be exported into the spreadsheet. If you want to keep files and images and everything, you will have to do a backup of the tool. So actually backup the database activity with user data, and that will preserve the files and the entries, everything that the student entered, and you can use that. And that way, if you also restore it into a course, then you have all of that coming back with it. Okay, so that's how to archive or store what has been done at the end of the semester. You can package it for sharing. I said that it is portable. Other people can use it. So across the site, you can save your database as a preset. That's the bottom option here. Saving it as a preset makes it an option on the site. It's like a little radio button. So if somebody wants to use your setup, when they come to create their database, they can select your option from the radio buttons, and then it's part of their database, and it's all set up and they're ready to go. So this is on the same Moodle site. Saving it as a preset will allow people on the same Moodle site to use it. If you want to be able to give it to somebody to use on a different Moodle site, then you want to export it as a zip. So if you export it, it packages everything as a zip file, and then off you go. You can go and do wonderful things. So I have shared all these 5 examples as zip files so that you can install them on your Moodle site and see how it works. Okay, what you would do is when you add the database to your course, okay, add an activity, select database, put in the name, and then you save and display. It's going to say you need to, this is empty. Now you have to, create your database. There's a tab called presets, as you can see up here, presets. So you go to the presets tab, and then you go get the zip file that you downloaded from my site, and then you would upload it as a zip. So this is how you reuse a shared package. So you import it from the zip file, so you can drag and drop it in, or choose the file, go browse, and then find it and bring it in. And then this is how you use it from a different site. Down here, you can see use a preset. And this is what I was saying. On the same Moodle site, we have an image gallery, we have the course resource repository, we have the require post to view. So I've saved it on our Moodle site. So other instructors in other courses who want to use this concept can just select the radio button, click choose, and then all the fields and all the templates, everything is already ready to go for them. And this is really, I just think that the database tool was one of the wonderful things that Moodle gave us. So this was it. I hope that this is something that you'll find useful. Any questions? I can go over something for you didn't quite understand.
Sarah, do you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, using ratings, an entry can be voted up or down. Yes, everybody can vote. Actually, if you want students to be able to rate as well, then you have to use the permission settings in the tool. So you see that the administration block for that activity that you've created has a permissions link. So if you go to permissions and then you override the student's role, you can allow them to rate entries. And that gives the students the power to then also peer review, right? And vote. So use it to vote up or down. So like I say, so if you're using ratings and you want to, you can create a scale in your gradebook, create a scale called vote up, vote down, 1 and 2, or however many steps you want it to be, and then you set that to be what you're using to grade your database tool. And then when the students go in to rate it, they will see that in the drop down. They'll see vote up, vote down, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever your scale is that you've put in. Yeah, you can do that, Frankie. Any other questions?
Well, I, for one, learned a lot from you, Sarah. I always learn a lot from you, but this was amazing. I'm really excited to start playing with the database. As you know, that's one of the few tools I haven't used a lot. So you gave me personally a lot of good insight as to how to start implementing it. Does anybody else want to turn their mic on and ask any questions?
Hi, Trish. I see. Thank you. Do you know if there's a way to restrict access to one person's submission to specific users, for example, that the student chooses another user? Restrict access. Well, that's tricky. Unless you use grouping where you put the two people who are supposed to be together in a group, and it's in separate groups, then those two can only see those entries and be able to view them. That's one way to do that. Does that answer your question? Does that sound like what you were asking, Trish? To do a student work plan. Yeah, post it in the discussion forum in the course, and we can, take it a little further. I'll dig around, and if you can explain a little of what you're trying to do, we can come up with ideas. That's all I do. I'm always coming up with ideas and doing things, to make the database jump hoops. Can you make the activity like that? You have one group, teachers that edit things, but students only see certain fields. Oh, fields. Seeing certain fields, students seeing certain fields and teachers seeing other fields. Now that is as a data bank for information. Now that's interesting. I haven't tried to restrict the view of different fields, but you have a CSS template And so you could use CSS to make some things visible and other things hidden. And we could probably leverage roles permissions and see if CSS can target. And there's ways around everything, but maybe there may be a plugin that does something like that better. I know there's a data form plugin that is an extension of the database, which probably has other things. I haven't really explored it very much, but I love to take what's in Moodle and try and figure out how to extend it and make it better. So CSS may be a way to go with that, using like visibility and display, the display or visibility handle to do hide, show, visible, not visible, display, none, things like that. Might be possible, Gemma. Thanks for that question. I'd love to explore that.
Why do I have a feeling, Sarah, of anybody? I know that you're going to go and play with that and come back next iMoot and show us a new feature, right?
Of course, you know me. I'm going to go do that.
For those of you who don't know, Sarah's my go-to. When I have a problem with CSS, I always scream, Sarah, help! And she goes and she helps me fix my code, and it comes back and it's all pretty again.
Thank you.
So if there's no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording now. All right, looks like there aren't any more questions, so I'll stop the recording. As part of the iMoot team, Sarah, I thank you again for a wonderful presentation, and I hope to see lots of ways that other people are using the database tool in the future.
Thank you. Go over, check out the course, and download the goodies. There's a badge to be won. I'm not going to tell you how to get it, but go get it. And let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.